Hey guys, it's Anita Lee, and I'm here with
Orijin.
We are doing a special year-end edition of our weekly roundup. We're going to sit down, have a conversation, and talk about the year's top stories and headlines. So, Orijin, what are you most excited for this year?
That's a good question. I'd say on one side of things, I'm excited to see how some of the stories we've been reporting on and like the trends, the patterns in those might continue or change as we get into 2020, and we'll talk more about that in this conversation. I'm excited to just keep making some of that content here with the Faith Strong Today team. On a more personal note, somebody I know is getting married in a few months, so if I see you in a few months, there might be a little something on this finger. Looking forward to that. I'm excited.
That's really exciting.
What about for you in your world? What's happening? What are you excited about for 2020?
So I've started vlogging again, and I am really excited to make more vlogs.
All right.
I know it sounds kind of nerdy because I already make videos, clearly.
That's awesome.
But I'm looking on going on more adventures, and vlogging just gives me a reason to find cool nooks and crannies of the city to explore.
That's so cool. I don't think that's nerdy at all. If it is nerdy, it's nerdy and cool at the same time. So good on you.
Thanks.
So exciting things happening in both of our adventures in lives right now for 2020. But also we've just completed a year that was quite exciting and had a lot going on. And we've both reported on some stories that sort of capture that, right? So I'm curious to know, and I think some of our viewers might be curious to know as well, how do you actually pick which stories you present in the weekly roundup? What's the process behind that?
Yeah, you guys are going to hear the behind the scenes of how all of this happens now.
The juicy stuff right here. Let's go.
So Friday mornings, I open up tons of tabs on my internet browser, and I start looking through lots of news sites. I look through mainstream news sites and faith-based news sites, and I start picking out what are the things that are intriguing to me, first of all, because if it's not interesting to me, then it's not going to be interesting to our viewers as well. And then I also filter out what's positive and inspiring, because the news is not exactly known for being the most positive place to hang out. So we try to make a big effort here to really focus on things that will uplift people. And I also check out the articles that look like they might be dark or too sensational, just to make sure that we've really covered all of our bases. And then I collect all of these headlines and I bring them to our content director at our studios here. And then we have a conversation where we really filter out what are the top stories, the real top stories that we want to highlight this week.
This all happens on a Friday morning?
Yep, I wake up early.
What time do you wake up?
On a normal weekday, I wake up at 5, but to be honest, on Fridays, I sleep in a tiny bit, but I still start, I'm looking on the internet early in the morning.
Well, God bless you. That's it's dedication, folks. Dedication to bringing you the best content. Yeah, but it sounds like there's kind of a balance. I hear you kind of filter out maybe the fluffy cotton candy type of news stories, but also the ones that maybe are too dark or too gloomy, that is just like unhelpful for somebody to see that during their day.
Yeah, at Faith Strong Today, we try to be really intentional about the stories that we profile, because there is so much happening. But we really pick out, the stories that, like, what are people talking about? What are we talking about in our friendships and in our everyday lives? And how does it relate to faith? And how can we share a different perspective on what's going on?
Really helping people sort of engage with what's going on in the world in almost a conversational, personal kind of way. That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So what about you, Orijin? You got a chance to make some of these weekly roundup videos this year. How did you find that process?
I did. Well, thankfully, I had a great tutor, a great mentor in how to do that. So my process looked somewhat similar to yours, except for the Friday morning 5 a.m. thing. I didn't do that part. So for me, it was usually on Thursday nights when I would, jump on a few different news websites. I had a few favorites that I would pick. And just sort of go through and see what some of the biggest stories were. And there's kind of like 3, I guess, criteria that I would look at. Is it going to be thought-provoking or provoking conversation for people, right? Is it informing them in some way? And also, is it encouraging? So I guess the acronym is it provoking, informative, encouraging? The acronym is PIE. So I look for PIE, and that helps me to know this is something that's worth sharing. And then similarly, Friday morning, I bring in, say, like 10, 15 stories, have that conversation with our creative director, and pick the top 3 and sort of boil it down to the best way to present those. Yeah.
Awesome. So there you guys have it.
Yeah, that's
These videos don't just show up on their own. There's a lot of thought and work that goes into them.
The inside scoop. And I'll also add, I used a lot of the knowledge I learned back in media studies class, because some news websites really present things with a certain kind of bias, a certain kind of slanted perspective. So you really have to practice kind of reading the story in it and seeing what I take from it. And yeah, it just got me to practice thinking about what perspective the presenters are coming from. So I hope folks, even when they watch our stories, are thinking and using their own like critical mind, right? All right, that's enough about that one. So have you noticed any themes or trends that maybe have stood out to you in the stories from this year?
Yes, absolutely. So the biggest things, the 2 biggest people who took over the headlines, I'd have to say, are Kanye West and Justin Bieber.
Without a doubt.
To the point where I had to purposely ignore the headlines from Kanye West and Justin Bieber, because then I would bring them to our director. He would just be like, Anita, is there anything else? But I think it's also really significant, and I tried to make a few arguments for a couple more Justin Bieber stories, because it would be the equivalent of like Britney Spears back in the day deciding that she was going to be a full-on Jesus follower and start to lead worship at church. Like, that didn't happen with Britney Spears.
Yeah, but that would be a story if it happened, right? That'd be huge.
Yeah, exactly. So I think seeing these, some of the biggest names in mainstream music be public about their faith, that was a huge deal, and it was really inspiring and encouraging to see.
That's so cool.
What about you? What was your favorite story, or anything that you picked up that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, I guess you really turned that question back on me. I got to think about that. I think one thing that really stood out to me was, keeping with the theme, when Marty Sampson from Hillsong came out and shared online with his followers on Instagram, I think it was, that he was experiencing a lot of doubt and thinking about how suffering can exist in a world where God is supposed to be loving. The kinds of questions a lot of people ask at some point in their faith journey, whether it's earlier on or later on. And then, of course, there was the response from John Cooper, from Skillet, and then a bunch of other pastors and authors, and people jumped in on this conversation about how faith relates to doubt and how we make sense of suffering in the world. So it was huge. People were talking about it. And I liked that us presenting that story could sort of add to that conversation, or, again, provoke some more thought and discussion around this important topic of the relationship between faith and doubt. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I think that's why we do these conversations. And I love that one of the top stories was about someone doubting their faith, which actually brings us to our top story this year, which was, if you guys have seen on YouTube, the big story about Brad Pitt telling GQ, in an interview with GQ, he told them that he said, quote, "I cling to religion," which is not normally what you would expect from one of the biggest Hollywood actors. So his story was actually that he grew up Christian, and then through his life, he's had periods being agnostic, atheist, and has kind of come to the spiritual belief right now that we're all connected. And that video on YouTube got tons of comments from every end of the spectrum, as you can imagine.
I've seen them. There's, quite a mix of perspectives and ways of expressing those perspectives, to say the least.
Yeah, so it's so fascinating to see people who are, who are excited that Brad is open to faith in some way, or to religion, and then other people who are like, hey, are we supposed to follow Brad now? So
are we supposed to cling to religion or cling to Jesus, right? People making sense of that in different ways.
Yeah, it sparked this huge discussion, and an interesting question for us to think about is, what is our role in conversations like this?
That's a great question. I think everybody even watching this could answer that for themselves. What's their role in these kinds of bigger conversations about faith and culture? I think for us at Faith Strong today, what I see us doing, even through that example of that video, and if you look at the YouTube comment section, it's very intriguing. There's a lot of stuff going on there. But what I see our role as a team is kind of making space. It's like setting a table and saying, here's what's happening in the world. we're using these news roundups, different videos, blogs, different forms of media to say, let's gather together around this stuff and have a conversation. And there's room for everybody across different experiences and perspectives to talk about how they engage with spirituality, how they engage with faith, culture, art, and all sorts of things like that. Yeah. What do you think?
I think that's what was powerful about seeing Kanye and Justin Bieber be public about their faith, even if it was messy. Because it was messy on social media, and it was like, the news didn't know what to do with the fact that Kanye was doing church on a mountain.
Yeah.
But what it did is it felt like it created this space for people to talk about their journey and their struggles, because both Kanye and Justin talked about how they had dealt with addiction, and they had obviously had a lot of pressure from fame and money, and these two people who would look like they have everything in the world, they needed a faith. They needed to believe in something. It was like their soul needed to land somewhere in the chaos of the world. So that's really exciting to me, and that's why I love doing these videos. I feel like, and I hope for you guys, they create an opportunity for us to have these conversations and to just be like, Justin Bieber doesn't have all the answers, but he's found something that helps him.
Yeah, and when I hear and read and report on those stories, I think about the fact that, I don't have all the answers either, but I continue to seek, I continue to dig, I continue to learn and share what I learn. And just because somebody like Kanye or Justin is in a different place than I am in their journey doesn't mean that them sharing is totally invalid. I feel like we're seeing this pattern in the broader culture where kind of a breaking down of a wall between people who are allowed to talk about spiritual things and people who are on the outside. I'm seeing less of the kind of us and them, still there sometimes in the conversations, but I feel like the direction I've seen culture moving is that everybody is able to come to the same space and say, okay, how do you understand life? How do you understand God? And let's start the conversation there, and we'll see where it takes us. I like that we can be a part of that.
Yeah, I do too, and that's why I really like making these videos for you guys, and ultimately, I think we do these videos because, well, at least I hope that it creates a space for empathy and understanding, and for people to drop their guards. This isn't a place where we're here to push our opinions. It's just like, this is what Kanye's struggling with. This is what Kim Kardashian is dealing with. And this is what I love about these videos. Yeah,
I love that. Empathy, compassion, curiosity about other people's experiences and perspectives. I really love that we can, as a team, sort of build that and inject that into the culture, into the conversations that people might be having.
Yes. So we would love to hear from you guys, because we are genuinely curious about what you think. What have been your favorite videos from the year? And what are you looking forward to hearing more about? And do you like these types of sit-down conversations? Because if you do, we would love to do more of them for you.
I think it's been fun.
It's been really fun. So thank you guys so much for watching, for being a part of our Faith Strong Today community, for engaging, and we're excited to make more videos for you. I'm Anita Wingley.
And I'm Orijin.
And we will see you guys in 2020.
Happy New Year.
For more inspiring stories, stay tuned on Faith Strong Today.